Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
From high-end restaurants to comfortable family barbecues, the preferences of chefs, home cooks, and other consumers is what ultimately drives beef demand. We'll discuss how these end users of beef help shape the direction and priorities of our industry.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Thanks for joining us. In the vast and dynamic landscape of the beef industry, end users play a pivotal role, and their influence extends far beyond the dinner plate. These individuals, from chefs to retail beef buyers to home cooks, and everyone in between, represent the final destination for a product whose journey begins on individual farms and ranches all across our country. So what do we as beef producers need to consider when it comes to understanding and addressing the needs of these end users? I'm here with an influential group of stakeholders who will shed some light on this important subject. First, we have Jason Garcia, Corporate Executive Chef for Talk of the Town Restaurant Group and Charlie's Steakhouse right here in Orlando, Florida. Next is Leanne Adams Simmons of the Adams Ranch Beef near Fort Pierce, Florida. They sell beef to Florida Whole Food stores and Cheney Brothers, a wholesale distributor right here in Florida. Our final panelist is Deanne Maples. She's the Executive Director for the Florida Beef Council. Thank you so much for joining us on this show. And Deanne, I want to start with you. I mean, what role do restaurants and retailers really play in driving and impacting the demand for beef?
Kevin, I think really they are the unsung heroes, I think, for the beef industry. They are the last people to have our product in their hands, and they're the trendsetters. They're watching what the consumers are interested in, and then they're responding to that. And when I think about the culinary landscape, which has really become so dynamic, we have these innovative chefs who are constantly experimenting with our product and really elevating it to the next level. That draws the consumer in, creates a buzz around that product, and what we see is the consumer then has this awesome dining experience that they want to, continue choosing beef in the restaurant, but then also going home and choosing beef at the grocery store for their home kitchen. I mean, these folks really they're doing this job that is creating beef enthusiasts one delicious dish at a time. We need these people.
And speaking of creating beef enthusiasts one delicious dish at a time, that's your business, Jason. I'm curious, what are the things that are top of mind for you as you choose what beef you're going to select and serve to your customers?
Top of mind would be the grade.
Okay.
That it's Midwestern grain-fed cattle.
Okay.
It's very important. We find that an Angus breed also lends to more marbling, and then the attributes that we're looking for. That it's wet aged a minimum of 21 to 28 days, which helps break down the meat and makes it more tender and gives a very flavorful product when it's on the plate.
That's outstanding. And from a retail perspective, Leanne, what are you seeing there?
Very close to the same thing. Quality grade, so important. Choice are higher. And a consistent supply. If you don't have a consistent supply, you kind of got to walk away from the game.
Yeah. Consistency is so important, isn't it? And I think that's one thing, Deanne, that we've really improved in the beef industry over the last 20 years is the consistency of our product. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And it's a story we tell all the time about the distance we've come in terms of genetics and things like that. We want to meet the consumer preference.
So let's talk about consumer preferences for just a minute, because certainly quality is one thing, but there are other things that are on consumers' mind today other than quality and juiciness and flavor. What are some of those other things that are driving the demand for beef? Chef Jason?
Definitely the quality of the beef. The consumers know more now of the difference between, say, choice and prime. Yeah. And they're definitely gravitating towards the higher end of that market, and they understand that the wet aging, the dry aging, it's something that consumers know more now than they used to. And they, like she said earlier, like they try to recreate that at home. They have it in a dining experience, and then they go to the grocery store, to their butcher market, wherever, and try to recreate that at home.
Leanne, you have direct connection with consumers as they come to your ranch and buy beef. What are you hearing in terms of some of their preferences?
The main thing is local. Is it sustainable? Wanting to know the whole process. Well, where all have these animals been? But I would say local is a buzzword that is not going away.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what are the kinds of questions? People come to your restaurant, Chef Jason, and sit down. What are the kinds of questions they're asking you about the beef?
Usually the first one is it grass-fed? Okay. Is it local? If it's not grass-fed, what was it fed? We kind of walk through all of that. Is it wet-aged? If that's what we're talking about, what does that mean to them? Yeah. If it's dry-aged, what does that mean to them? And then again, they always come back to, well, if it's a grade, tell me why that grade is, and it becomes an educational experience of marbling, flecks of fat, ribbons of fat, so on and so forth.
Interesting. What are you seeing from a Beef Council standpoint? What are the kinds of questions we're hearing from consumers?
So I think that I think we're kind of in a beef revolution a little bit. We used to talk about steaks and burgers more, and now I find that consumers are interested in more unique cuts. They're sampling new cooking styles, and maybe they're seeing some of that on TV or online or something, but they're getting a little bit more adventurous, and it's like they want this adventure on their plate, but yet they want to Leanne's point and Chef's point, the local idea and sustainability. I mean, they're buying into a story, really. It's a sort of a package of things, and I think that for restaurants and retailers and people, they're all trying to keep up with that and stay ahead of the curve on that and meet that consumer preference.
And we do have a good story to tell, and certainly a lot more questions from you. When we return, we'll talk about how state beef councils work with end users to promote beef. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Handle feed, waste, and other materials on your operation with John Deere equipment. Weigh feed on the go with dynamic weighing. And move materials faster without spilling with the Level to Horizon feature on 6R tractors. Move and stack bales easily and clean up brush and debris with improved grapple work on 5 Series tractors. Get into tight spaces with skid steers and wheel loaders. And check calves, fences, and more with John Deere Gators. Ask your John Deere dealer to learn more.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hi, I'm Jesse Fulton. Today I want to talk to you about transportation. Each year, millions of cattle are transported across the United States. Whether it be a bumper pull trailer, a gooseneck trailer, or a cattle pot going down the roadway, these act as big billboards for the beef industry. So in order to ensure consumer confidence, we need to ensure our animals are fit for transport. When assessing fitness for transport of our cattle, we are looking at 3 things. The health status of the animal, to ensure that we are not causing any biosecurity issues, the mobility score of the animal, and the body condition score of the animal, to ensure these animals are able to withstand the rigors of transport. To find out more about transportation, the Beef Quality Assurance Program, or the Beef Quality Assurance Transportation Program, go to bqa.org.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Welcome back to this special edition of Cattlemen to Cattlemen, as we visit with beef industry end users and learn how they drive beef demand. Deanne, I'm curious, how do you interact as a Florida Beef Council with end users and consumers to drive demand for our product?
Well, I think much like my counterparts at the state beef councils across the country, we share the same goal, which is to create a meaningful experience and connection for that end user with our product. And for us, some days, it's as simple as offering a recipe or some beef education resources. But then when I look at Florida, the populous state that we are, 23 million residents, 140 million tourists annually, I think we really have an obligation to the beef industry nationwide to keep our boots on the ground on their behalf. And so we do that with things like educational programs, ranch tours and events where we have an opportunity to get these people out and really educate them on beef's sustainable story from ranch to ribeye. Last summer, we had a really unique opportunity to partner with our colleagues at the Texas Beef Council to provide a beef educational summit for a day to culinary professionals at Walt Disney World. We focused on beef production. We looked at sustainability, animal welfare, beef quality assurance, and then some practical beef product application. And it was just an amazing opportunity to be with these folks who, number one, we truly value the work that they do day in and day out. And two, to have the opportunity to just listen to their concerns, their questions, and get some feedback on how we can do the best job possible for these folks who day in and day out take our product and turn it into culinary magic for millions of visitors annually.
Yeah. And we're glad they do. And what you're really talking about is those personal relationships. And I don't know about you, but I'm just finding that end users want to know more and more about the beef they're eating and where it's coming from and who it's being produced by and so forth. In your opinion, Leanne, what's the value of those personal relationships between end users and producers? And tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. And growing up, we've always had an open gate policy. I mean, just trying to educate anybody and who will listen. For example, with Whole Foods Market being one of our major customers, we host what they call them team leaders, team leader days, where they come out and then they go back and they are able to train the people behind the counter on our product. We met the family, the multi-generational, still family owned and operated, family business. We saw the cattle, we saw how they're raised. And so for them to be able to go back and say, we saw that, and then behind the counter, they're able to tell their customers what they saw all about us, and that makes every bit of a difference.
And did you say that in some cases there's actually a picture of your family
in most
at
of
the Whole
exactly.
Foods
in most of the stores, they put a picture up, so there's that connection, and that's what a lot of this is about. People want a connection to the food they're buying, no matter what kind of food it is.
And Jason, I was going to ask you, in our previous segment, you had referenced that many consumers are actually asking you, is the beef grass-fed? In reality, you are, but serving a product that is mostly grain finished. What do you do to kind of train your servers to tell the story and to help consumers understand how the product you're choosing to sell is actually produced?
We walk them through the process that, all the animals are started on grass and they're finished on corn primarily. It's the finishing grain that yields the best marbling, highest quality product, that taste, that texture that the end user, the guest is really looking for. So part of that is an education that we go through with our servers to let them know that, they're fed grass through their whole life. They're just not primarily fed grass, but they're finished on the corn.
I'm curious, how have you seen the beef industry change in terms of marketing, in terms of technology, the kinds of things that are really changing how consumers purchase and utilize the product? Deanne?
Well, I think it's been just an entirely different process now. We're looking at e-commerce programs. People are, they're grabbing their recipes online. They're getting their inspiration through the social channels and things. And then they're buying their groceries through a digital format also on their phone. They don't even have to leave their house to do it. So huge changes.
Yeah. And how about recipes? Are you finding people are asking more questions about how to prepare products?
Absolutely. If something is slow moving, we give them a recipe and it really picks up. The other thing to jump on Deanne is that we started doing was home deliveries and as well as an app so that they can order everything there, pick up in our store, have it delivered or shipped. That's how I get all my groceries, and that's just the way the world is going.
Fascinating stuff. And when we come back, our panel shares their thoughts on the future of beef consumption. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Cattle Cons geared up for a real Texas get-together in San Antonio, February 4th through 6th, 2025. This is where we all come together and the big decisions get made. Like they say, if you ate at the table, you might just be on the menu. So let's show up and make sure your voice counts. While you're here, you've got to check out the acres and acres of the newest in cattle care and ranch tech at the Texas Size NCBA Trade Show. It's the perfect place to learn new tricks, meet new folk, and find ways to make your operation even better. Make connections that last, learn from the pros, and help steer the future of the cattle biz. So what are you waiting for? San Antonio remembers the Alamo, and you'll want to remember to register for CattleCon 2025, February 4th through 6th. Grab your hat and mosey on over to convention.ncba.org to learn more. We can't wait to see y'all at CattleCon 2025 when the beef industry meets.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hi, I'm Dr. Julia Herman with the National Beef Quality Assurance Team, and I'm here to talk to you about building a biosecurity plan. When we talk about biosecurity, we are emphasizing keeping diseases off the operation, and this can be done in a number of ways. Cattle producers are already taking steps to keep their cattle healthy, and having a written biosecurity plan is an important part to both healthy cattle and a successful operation. BQA has developed some useful resources to help cattle producers walk through current biosecurity practices on their farm and provide steps for continuous improvement. The customizable template enables producers to fill out with a trusted resource such as their veterinarian. Our BQA Advanced Education module focuses on the principles of biosecurity and walks through the plan. These are great tools to prepare your operation for a disease outbreak and improve the success of your farm in the long term. Check out these resources on bqa.org.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Welcome back as we continue our discussion on beef industry end users and their importance to the beef cattle industry. Chef, I want to begin with you, and you don't have to look very far to see some pretty negative press about beef and beef production practices, etc. I'm curious, from your position as a chef, how confident are you in beef and beef production?
We're very confident. We rely heavily on our vendor partners we've had relationships for numerous years with, and that they're going to source us the highest quality beef, the grade that we're looking for, the aging process that we want, and that we'll be able to sustain our business, long term. So we're very confident in that.
That's great to hear. Leanne, you and your family are doing something that a lot of families are either doing or have considered doing, and that is developing a direct-to-consumer beef business. In your estimation, what are some of the key opportunities and maybe some of the watch-outs that you would guide us towards?
There's so many opportunities. We started, with retail and then went into some food distribution and then now direct to the ranch and then dabbling in shipping. So there's just so many outlets, whether you want to sell a whole cow, a half, a quarter, there's just so many opportunities. For us, the key thing was good partners. We are not vertically integrated, so we subcontract out our feed and our harvesting. So really, we have a three-legged stool situation. If something falls out, the whole program will collapse. So just really know and feel really comfortable with who you're dealing with.
What have you done to try to do a good job in demand forecasting and figure out how to have the right number of cattle at the right times? I mean, what guidance?
Right, because like I told you, consistency, supply consistency is so important.
Exactly.
So we have had to make changes to our breeding a little bit to be able to make that year-round supply.
Right.
And I wish I could tell you we have perfected it, because we have not. It's always a work in progress, that's for sure.
Deanne, what are some things that farmers and ranchers can do to help continue driving demand for beef and confidence in our beef product?
I always tell the producers when I get out on the ground and I have a chance to talk to producers, I say, to maintain our spot in the marketplace is so important. And our first job to doing that is to provide stellar care to our animals and to the land they graze on. That's a big part of our story. And number two is to meet the consumer where they are. And that means listening to their concerns, hearing the things that matter to them, and reminding them that we are capable and committed to meeting their needs. I look to programs like the Beef Checkoff funded Beef Quality Assurance program. That's a consumer confidence program that really, through the education portion of it, highlights those big topics like sustainability ethical and quality practices, things like that. And those go a long way. They resonate with the consumer. In Florida, we put on several of those programs throughout the year for our producers. And we target all age groups, from the littlest cattle showmen all the way up to our seasoned professionals who really think they don't need any advice, right? But we talk to everybody. It's there's strength in numbers, and we want 100% of our cattle herd in Florida to be under a BQA, a Beef Quality Assurance certified operation. Those are things that the consumer looks to, and so that shows that we're all in as much as the consumer is. So really just reminding our producers we have to come part way as well.
I know many of you know this, but we're experiencing record low cow numbers, 60-year low cow numbers in this country. And I think there's a lot of ranchers across the country wondering if now's the time to expand. I'm curious, what do you see in terms of how beef demand is evolving and what the future holds for beef consumption? Chef Jason?
We haven't seen a decline in our beef demand. Our guests still come in daily, weekly, monthly, and they eat a lot of beef. I mean, that's what we're known for. So yeah, we haven't seen any decline. We haven't really seen a shift in preferences. Like we were talking earlier, fillets still drive the market. That's what everyone wants. But yeah, we haven't seen a decline at all. I mean, they like maybe some different options sometimes, or they're asking for different cuts, larger cuts, smaller cuts, stuff like that, but not a decline in the actual beef.
Really good news. Leanne?
The same. Our business has grown every year. Repeat customers, which is so important, but that's why it's so important to give these customers just a great quality product, because it's not the cheapest protein out there. And if you want them coming back, you have to, that quality is so important.
Leanne, you mentioned the elevated prices of beef, and I'm curious, Deanne, what does the future portend for our industry as we see these elevated prices continue?
Well, the good news is we know that the consumer loves beef. They love the flavor, and it still is the protein that they want to go to for really a great dining experience. What I'm finding when I'm out with our consumers is they're looking for ways to still have beef and maybe cook once, eat twice, or cuts that can really pour over maybe into leftovers the next night. So helping to kind of educate them on some of these cuts where they can do that. Maybe ways that they can buy subprimals, take them home, learn how to sort of fabricate the meat themselves, make some steaks and things. They're open to those opportunities. In fact, I think back to just the holiday season we were in, and we saw really great pricing on prime ribs. And so myself, I was standing around the meat cooler saying, hey, if you take that home and you just slice it this way, you could have 8 or 10 ribeyes out of this. And so you see light bulbs go off, and this meets their need. They're, oh my gosh, I have some control over this. I can really affect some change and save some dollars and things. So.
And that's why the work you do in state beef councils all across the country is so critical to driving demand for our product. Thank you so much. Now we'll be back to wrap up our show right after this. Stay with us.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest and largest national cattle industry organization working to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen, email updates in the NCBA Beef Bulletin, plus big discounts only for NCBA members. Join by calling 866-233-3872 or online at ncba.org.
Welcome back. As we wrap up our program, I'd like to give each of our panelists an opportunity to share their final thoughts. Chef Jason?
I would just like to thank all the cattlemen out there for all their hard work and dedication to, from calf to the end product, and supplying us with a product that is amazing, high quality, that our consumers are looking for, particularly our guests and our restaurant environment, and thank them for all their hard work and dedication to the industry.
And thank you. Leanne?
My final thought is just to remind our producers to never stop listening to the consumers and what they want. The reason we started our branded beef program was my grandfather was reading constantly about no hormones, no antibiotics, and he was so scared that people were going to quit eating beef. So he said, let's create a product for them. So he didn't care what kind of beef people were eating, he just wanted them to eat beef.
And it sounds like you've been successful. Deanne?
So, I think that our producers do a tremendous job day in and day out. And the good news is that consumers trust farmers and ranchers. Surveys show this. So let's maintain that. Let's keep that standard. It's great to be where we're at and just strive higher. So let's keep doing that. And don't be afraid to brag on yourself and the good work that you do. Tell your story.
We have a great product, and people love that product. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
For more information on this topic, go to beefitswhatsfordinner.com and think about reaching out to your own state beef council to find out how you can engage with consumers to ensure that beef is their own protein of choice. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks again to our panel for their insights, and thank you for watching. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.